Chloe.
And yes, we do make money on Instagram. All right. Hey, money makers. Welcome back to another episode of Yes, I Make Money, brought to you by Right Hand Glam, usually hosted by Emma and Chloe, but Chloe is getting herself a brand new car today. So keep an eye out because you know she's going to be posting all about it. And we are so excited to have Bethany McCamish on today. And she is a pro at working with Airbnbs. And Chloe and I felt that talking about the hospitality industry, particularly Airbnbs, is super important when we are talking about our new series, The Next Gen of Moneymakers. So Bethany, I would love for you to introduce yourself, tell the people who you are, what you do, why you do it, who you do it for, lay it down.
Amazing. Well, thanks for having me. I run a strategic brand and web design agency. I work with multi-figure entrepreneurs, some of whom are Airbnb owners. Sometimes they own a business and an Airbnb. And so my crossover specifically with them is to help them create a memorable and super profitable property through their brand and website. And then beyond that, I'm here to help all entrepreneurs make more money through their brands.
Hell yes. So
Yes.
question for you, because I know that you said that you have seen people who are business owners also starting Airbnbs. Do you think that that's a trend that is emerging and that we're going to see, taking off? Because I know a lot of business owners, I was in a mastermind last year where people were talking about secondary businesses they could start sort of for passive income, and people were talking about things like car washes or vending machines. Do you think that Airbnbs are going to be one of these forms of passive income for, in particular, online entrepreneurs?
Oh, 100%. Because the reality is, which I'm sure you've had this conversation before too, we all need an exit plan. And for so many entrepreneurs, if you're a service provider specifically, you don't necessarily have like a productized business that you can productize and sell. Like maybe you don't have courses or something like that yet. You're looking for some sort of exit plan in terms of giving you more space, that freedom that was promised to you originally when you became an entrepreneur, those kinds of things. And there has always been so much potential wrapped up in real estate. And that's an excellent strategy for building wealth long term for so many people. It's
Absolutely.
something I personally am doing. And then the fact that you can add to that, Airbnb as your income stream too is like the way to go, really. And so I think it's 100% going to be an emerging trend, if not already. Like I think people are already into it.
So if you can answer this, and if you can't, have to keep
Yeah.
it secret, totally fine. But the Airbnbs that are investing in working with you, are we talking like six figures here that they're making every year?
Now, potentially, I can't like say exactly, but the initial ones who have invested with me knew me through their businesses already, so
Okay.
they had that trust with me, and they were newer Airbnbs, and they knew immediately that they wanted to create an experience and create a stay that was going to stand out amongst all the other stays and have it be so much more than just an Airbnb. And so that was like the starting point of any conversation, is like people need to be in it to create something memorable, something that can bring an experience. And when I say that, it's not just like we printed their logo on a piece of chocolate. Like it's like from like the moment you step onto the property, everything has an Instagram worthy moment, so to speak, whether that's your rug at your front door, places to purposely take pictures. Like it's put together in a way that is going to create a memory, but then also allow you to build community and authority super quickly because of that share potential and because of all that you've invested into your brand.
So a lot of interesting questions come up here. I think that the example of the logo on chocolate is so great. And then you start talking about like rug placement. So for you, when you are in this position working with Airbnbs, I'm assuming that your role goes far beyond just the role of a brand and web designer. Are you actually, talking to them about how they can create these quote unquote Instagrammable moments in their space, any of the design aspects, and including that logo on the chocolate. Can you explain to us how the branding really appears in the space?
Yes, yeah. So it is a very different role than what I would normally take with like entrepreneurs, right? When I am working with entrepreneurs, it goes beyond branding website too, and that like for the people who opt for the full package, we do a photo style guide. I talk to their photographer. I'm in touch with their packaging person, all of that.
Wow.
So that's like the full branding experience, right? Because I'm a brand strategist. That's like level one of what I am, and that involves every piece of the brand. And I'm in there as your creative director. And so when you flip that for Airbnbs, it looks a little bit different. And we do have conversations like, okay, what's your interior space going to look like? Are you working with an interior designer or are you doing it yourself? And we put together that vibe because that obviously all needs to flow with your brand and your website as well, and make sure that it's going to be cohesive because you want to present in a cohesive way. But then the extra layer and the fun part of what I get to do is strategizing what the experience is going to be like. So
Mhm.
for example, one of my clients has like a glamping Cascade Dome, and it's stunning property. They have a sauna, and so
Oh,
it's but the other side of it is there's no like fully running water, there's no Wi-Fi, and so you have to prepare your guests with you have to set the expectations, and that's a
right.
huge part of what we do is like how can we make sure that we're also setting expectations, because this is technically a luxury glamping experience and it's
Mhm.
very high end, but there are going to be drawbacks to that, and you have to be willing to be okay with that. And there is a strategic way you can present your brand without saying, hey, there's a porta potty out back, because nobody actually wants to like have that be the first thing that they're greeted with.
Right.
But if you can present your brand in a way of like, this is a full experience, and that might be a little bit of a downside of the experience, but you're in it for the connection, the complete disconnect from like your world to connect with your partner. And we made it very much like a romantic getaway feeling, and all of those pieces going together and what that looks like, down to like, what are the gifts that you're leaving for your guests every time? Do they come from the local area? Are you involving your community that way? Where are you pointing people? Is your guest book online for them that they can flip through and have guided, optional guided experiences? Like, I want a hiking day, I want a city day, where am I going and what does that look
Mhm.
like? So we talk through all of that, and then they get to decide, where they want to put their energy and their money in order to create that full experience.
I so love that this is where you went with that, because I think way too often we don't talk about brand strategy. And I know that when I got the branding redone for Right Hand Glam, there was actually so much copy in my brand strategy that I used in so many different places on the website, in announcing the rebrand. And I think getting an idea of that positioning. I mean, I think brand strategists, like in their hearts, are also copywriters. Like they're really
Yeah, this is
good at
true.
copy.
Behind the scenes.
Um, so for things like this, like say you're doing just brand strategy and branding and not a website for an Airbnb, is this the kind of language and things that they would use in listing on the app versus on the website?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. Now, I am not an SEO expert or necessarily a SEO Airbnb expert. I
Mhm.
provide guidance, I provide connections for that. But the language I use is intertwined with that SEO that they either outsource with one of the people I partner with, or they come up with it themselves. And that allows them to actually start ranking and being found, which is super important. So you definitely don't have to do the website portion, and a lot of my clients opt not to.
Mhm.
One, you cannot book like legally. VRBO and Airbnb and pretty much any short-term rental platform is not going to legally allow you to have a private booking website like separately, right? Because they need to keep that income in-house. It's like
Mhm.
against their terms. So I have a lot of clients who are very wary about jumping to a website, which I get because it's like they don't want to like press the wrong buttons.
Right.
But I would say the important thing is, one, you need to, if you're doing a branded Airbnb, you need to claim your space and claim your name, which includes your
Absolutely.
domain. So you need, cascadedome.com or thecascadedome.com and all variations of that, and Cascade Dome in Idaho and all of that, so that you
Yeah.
at least own those and have them. And then when you have the time, you can invest in creating, a website that is SEO backed. So you're going to come up in search rankings. And as long as every single one of your book now buttons points to your Airbnb, VRBO, wherever you're hosting your property, and you're not violating those terms of service, then you're safe and you're good to go. And you have a new way of claiming your brand. And on top of that, so many people plan to buy multiple Airbnbs, right? Like
Right.
if you're using this to make money to create your next wave of income and exit plan, you're going to have multiple properties, and you need a website that can showcase, your property portfolio, so to speak, so that people can, oh, I stayed here last time. What other properties do they have? And get straight to those properties really easily from your site. So
Yeah, I've
the
seen that the Airbnb app doesn't necessarily make that super easy, because I know when
yeah.
I got an Airbnb in London, I saw that this same guy kept popping up that owned all these places, and I was like, okay, well, he has good spots, but like there's no easy way for me to be like, hey, like where is all your listings? I feel like it gets very overwhelming very quickly.
Yes. Yeah. And you never know where like your business is necessarily going to go or pivot.
Mhm.
There's so many opportunities within Airbnb too. Like some of my clients are Airbnb ambassadors, and they teach people, like they coach people on Airbnb and how to set one up.
It's so cool.
My client Air Brindy, that's what she does, and she does an incredible job. She does like has a launch service where she helps you launch everything, like set up your furniture. Like she'll come to your place and do that for you. And so those are potential other opportunities for creating income off of this Airbnb industry. And so you basically need a website at some point to house that, if you're going to plan to grow within this space, I think.
So I know something that I've heard about is direct to consumer pricing when you have a website. And I know that you also said though that there's this like thin line you have to walk with not violating terms. So how are folks able to do that without violating those Airbnb terms, or can it be done?
Not as of right now that I know of. Like you either are on Airbnb and VRBO, and that's booking happens only through those platforms, period.
Mhm.
If you opt to, you can switch, but you would have to remove yourself from the platforms. Otherwise, you're technically violating terms of service.
Mhm.
And if you do, like, let's say you build a massive community online, which is absolutely possible with some of these viral Airbnbs.
Yeah.
You could make the switch to remove yourself from the platform and do private booking. Private booking comes with a lot of red tape in terms of you need proper insurance and
Mhm.
a little bit more structure. But at that point, you're probably so far along in your Airbnb journey that all of that doesn't feel like a big deal to you.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, and then obviously you wouldn't be technically be an Airbnb anymore.
Yeah, true,
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
So what attracted you to Airbnbs? Why Airbnbs? Why the hospitality industry?
Oh, I mean, I'm obsessed with them. I'm obsessed with like boutique hotels and hospitality in general. I was a digital nomad for a while, so I lived nomadically, and we lived in a fifth wheel, but we stayed at so many Airbnbs along the way. And
Mhm.
before that, like I'm just like a diehard for an Airbnb over
Right.
a like Hilton or Marriott, to be honest. Like they're amazing, they're great brands, and they have brand loyalty and good for them, but it's just such a unique experience. And when I'm looking, like this is a great example because I just was planning my amazing dream Europe trip for December.
Ah, so exciting.
I know, I'm so excited. So we're going to Germany and Austria and Switzerland.
Hold on.
And
When are you
I'm
going to Germany and Austria? Because I'm also going to Germany and Austria in December.
really, oh my God. Okay, well, we
Yes.
leave December 16th. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this on the
Oh, I
podcast.
think that's when I get back. I think that's
Oh,
when
okay,
I
okay.
get back. But wait, that's crazy though. Are you going for Christmas markets?
Yes,
That's where
absolutely. Yes,
I'm
that's the
going.
reason. Yeah. Well, it's my birthday too. So it's a birthday celebration / Christmas markets.
Oh.
And I've never seen the Swiss Alps. So
Oh,
like I want to make it
That's
happen.
magical.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Oh,
Um, oh my God, I forgot what I was talking about because now I'm like in Europe. I'm already like ready to take the trip.
staying at Airbnb is why we love Airbnb.
Oh yeah, duh. Yeah, I was booking. I was booking. So I was looking at boutique hotels, right? Because I think that they offer something really unique and special, and I hope one of them comes to hire me because that would thrill me. I'm ready. I'm ready for you, boutique hotels, and looking at Airbnbs. And really, what I'm comparing is obviously the setting, the feeling, and the location. But what else do they have to offer? Like some Airbnbs offer the option to add on breakfast. Some offer just like the most adorable setup, and I want everything to look different and cute and feel unique to the area. And Airbnbs usually outshine. They just do such a good job.
Because you're
And
truly
plus,
immersed in wherever you are when you do that.
yeah. And usually, if it's owned by someone who lives in the area or has a lot of experience there, they just have better recommendations, better connections.
Mhm.
So you're getting this, like, I think, especially our generation and generations younger than us don't want the touristy, like freaking Rick Steves tour that your like
Yeah.
grandparents took. And they don't want that experience. They want to feel like they're a part of something. And that's a trend amongst every brand, but we really want to feel like we're a part of something, and we can do that through Airbnbs, and that makes it so um like so much potential for so much growth and so much money and also impact and like being able to connect humans, which I think is very cool.
I love that. And I have one more like business need question before we get
Yeah.
to some more fun stuff. Not that all of this is not fun, but I know that you mentioned earlier on that getting into real estate is something that you are working on, thinking about. Is an Airbnb in your future?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I mean, I hope so. So we my husband and I have bought our third house, which we're in now. And we've done like our first house, we it was a gut job, like do it ourselves kind of thing. And
Mhm.
then after that, I was like, I'd like to be in a position to never have to do this myself again. It was awful, but we learned so much like doing it ourselves, right? We
Yeah.
sold that, moved to Arizona, and in Arizona we had another flip, kitchen bathroom flip, and
Mhm.
in that case we hired someone. And so I feel like we just had this conversation the other day. Each step we've taken, we've gotten closer and closer to being able to build a true real estate portfolio and like build those skills and connections of people who are going to help make that happen. Because
Yeah.
in the market everywhere, the reality is we're probably going to have to buy a flip because it's hell expensive and we have to figure
As
out how to
someone
do
who,
it.
and I know you just bought a house too, but
Yeah.
yep, yep.
Yeah. It's so crazy. So the house we're in now is actually it has like an ADU attachment on the side.
Mhm.
And this summer we're finishing out the kitchen and dining room needs to be finished. And once that's finished out, we'll be doing a rental. We're not sure if it's going to be long term or we're thinking about trying midterm rentals too, which is like the 90-day rental
That's awesome.
because we're right by a hospital. So that could be a potential. But
Brilliant.
that's this is our first like step into that space officially, which we're very excited about. And then our next property will be hopefully short-term rental, which is what Airbnbs and that sort of thing are.
So
Our current
awesome.
location is not like where people want to vacation. So I mean, so but yeah, it's on my list. It is definitely my exit plan. And I don't say that in a negative way. Like I always plan to be working. I absolutely love what I do, but it is my plan to build wealth on a much larger scale um than just within my agency.
Oh my gosh, yeah, totally. I mean, I think real estate is the way to go. I'm looking into getting my real estate license very soon. So
Oh my
yeah, I
God, I
know.
love
So
it.
I love the idea of an Airbnb for myself. I think it would be something that I would have a lot of fun with too. So definitely on the same wavelength. That I know if Chloe was here, she'd be like, if I had an Airbnb, I would do this, and this, and it would be this theme. So
Oh my
transition
God,
here.
yes.
She would be honestly, I would love to watch her like put together an Airbnb. Like I would subscribe to that content.
Mhm.
Okay, so you just stayed in an Airbnb like last weekend, right?
Yeah, no, that was a boutique hotel, but it was
Okay,
incredible.
still works because I know that's still
Yeah.
kind of under the umbrella that we're talking about here. What to you stood out as part of the brand experience? And can you explain to us like a little bit of how you saw your own strategy of what you do with your clients in that space?
Yes. Oh my God. I love this question because I was like, every step I was thinking about this. So we pulled onto the property and we have a Tesla, and we knew ahead of time they give you an option to add on a plug-in spot. So we had a specific spot. It was labeled for us with our name. Like everything was
Ooh.
so easy. When you opened the door to the little room, like they had a note and two champagne glasses, and it said like, we have a bottle chilling in the fridge for you, relax and indulge.
Wine
And like,
and dine.
I know. And so they set the tone immediately, like relax and indulge. And like I could tell from some of the language that they had worked on, like, okay, our whole vibe is all about those two words, and we're going to bring that through at every moment. And that's not going to be the case with every Airbnb. Like some within the city and stuff are going to have a different vibe, but it felt so sweet and so kind. And it was in the fridge and ready to go for us. And they had little chocolates in the bathroom instead of just like the terrible, terrible hotel shampoo and
Ew.
conditioner. You know what
Yep.
I mean?
Yep, girl,
They
I get
had
it.
they had a ton of like face masks and hand masks and foot masks, and they had them for like all genders, and so they just did everything right from every point. There was a way to order food to your room. They had a butler's pantry that you could walk to, and like it was self-service, right? So anything you needed, extra towels, ice, whatever. You just go into this little butler's pantry and get it yourself. Anything that
Wow.
cost money was on the honor system. You clicked a QR code and paid. It was just like so nice and so private. And then of course
Ooh.
like the views and the location were stunning as well, but it set the mood and it set the tone for relaxing and indulging, and that was what the whole weekend was about. And I think that when you pay attention to those little moments, like I posted pictures of the champagne thing and the different little touches, and I had 6 people, 4 of which I have no idea who they were, message me and ask me where it was, and they were gonna look it up and stay there. And so it's like, if you're thinking about doing this for yourself, that right there should be proof enough that like from one person staying one night, there were all of these other people immediately interested.
Yeah.
So
So the question that came up for me in hearing you talk about all of this, which like one, I want to go here. Hello. But why go to all of these lengths? Can why create a branded strategic experience? Can you charge more? Because I know that I've stayed in some shitty Airbnbs that have no thought put into them that were as expensive as hell. So, did you see with this place, was it priced higher, or are the people that are doing this just people who genuinely care about creating something beautiful and, bringing joy to people? Or is it a bit of both?
I mean, I think the answer is a bit of both. Your price point varies so much by location
Mhm.
initially. Like if you're staying in a big city, London's a great example. I know you were there recently. Like you're going to pay a high price tag regardless, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And for maybe not a great experience. Like I've definitely had a few of those. My Philly stay was like the most generic IKEA
I'm
falling
not
apart.
surprised
Like,
whatsoever.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, but the outside was great, but I was like, it was just like a place to crash, you
Yeah.
know? But it's like you can build a business on the model of a place to crash, just like people can build, you know, agencies and businesses on the model of quick Jiffy Lube services. Like that's
Yeah.
just as viable. There's nothing wrong with that. But the other side of it is you can make more money, absolutely, and you can charge more when you provide that full experience. Charging more within reason. People are like, oh, it's another $90 for this place, but I know this place is going to be this full experience. That doesn't seem like a big deal, especially when you're working with the specific clientele who are looking for romantic getaways and looking to, feel something at the space. And when you pay more for a space, you spend more time there typically, and you
Right.
want that time to be really enjoyable, right? Because you're like, well, we paid for this, let's make it really great. And if they're helping you make it really great, then it's going to be an awesome stay. Something else I've seen, speaking of themes, I don't know if you follow the the Carewells. I'm sure I'm saying that. Karwells. She's
No.
amazing. I'm obsessed with her. She's the Airbnb gurus. They have their own and they mentor and they're very cool. And she just showed an Airbnb sex room, like a sex themed, like red light district looking.
Whoa.
Yeah, which is so like scandalous. This is like not PG-13, but
It's fine.
it was
We
like,
say fuck every other word
oh
usually.
great.
This
I
has
was
been a
like, am
very
I
tame
allowed to
conversation.
swear?
This has been a very tame conversation compared to what is normally coming
Great.
out of our mouths. So please give us all the sex room details.
Okay. Okay. So this, and I was like, she put it out there. She's like, what do you guys think? Like, how do you feel about this? I'm like, first of all, it's freaking brilliant. It's brilliant
It's
because it
so
has
smart.
like, it has the St. Peter's cross, like the bondage. Like, I don't know if you've seen that Netflix show, the Sex Room Netflix show where
I
the
have
interior designer.
not. That
Oh my
Chloe
God.
might have. I have. I
Okay.
am
It's
a plain Jane. Let's just keep it at that.
okay. But it's so, it was fast because I will watch any interior design show. Like,
Yeah.
I'm obsessed, you know. I watched every single episode of Chip and Joanna Gaines. Like it doesn't matter, even though that's much more wholesome than the sex room show. I don't care. I'm
Yeah.
watching them both. So that show is like sparked this whole like trend, I guess, an emergence of people talking about and being more open about sex rooms. And
Yeah.
so Airbnbs are popping up that are like themed for different types of pleasure. So they're like sex themed. And I think honestly, it's
What?
super smart because it's a niche. Like people maybe want an experimental, sexy weekend.
And you're not going to
And I
build the
think it's
sex room
super
in your
smart.
house for that experimental weekend.
No, and certainly, and it's not for everyone. And maybe people don't have a room in their house, you know, to even
Also
do
true.
that. But I just thought it was so smart. And she put it out there as like, is this like a thing? And some people were like, oh, I don't know. I wouldn't stay there. I'm like, it's so smart. Like people would stay there. Millennials
Absolutely.
and young couples are going to try it out and it's going to be fun. The only concern I had, which I commented was like, I am concerned about the sanitation.
Okay, that's what was going through my mind too.
I
And I hope I
know.
knows what you were going to say. Like, that's some deep cleaning. That is
Yeah,
some deep
deep
cleaning.
cleaning. Yeah, so I was like, you know, like the in Tarzan where the little elephant is like, is this water
Oh my God,
sanitary?
stop.
Like
Yes.
that is like what came into my mind because that's what I would be thinking as I walked in. So I think there again, this is where you think about it as a brand, right? They made a niche, they have a brand. They need to fix that assumption and pain point and all of those expectations that people are bringing in when it
Yeah.
comes to like a sex room. And one of the big pain points is going to be, is it sanitary and is it clean? And that's going to need to be like leading paragraph of like what it looks like. And, you know, they provide like whips and all kinds of things. And so I think that is again an example of how brand strategy comes in of
You don't
like,
even
hey,
have to
how do
bring
we
your own
navigate
whip.
this?
Whips are provided. I love
It
it.
provided, yeah, provide. I think like, you know, they could have cheeky language too. Oh, see, cheeky
See,
language, like
cheeky.
that word. They could have cheeky and they'd be like, bring your own, you know, butt plugs and vibrators or whatever it is. And like everything else is provided. They provide like lube and
BYOB, bring your
everything.
own
And
butt plug. I'm dead.
yeah, wouldn't that be so like, it was just
It's
like,
brilliant.
I thought the niche was genius. There's so much potential here with their language. And it's just such a good example of like, an easy example of here's the pain points that are coming up that we're like, I do it, but it needs to be clean, you know? And that's when you start thinking about Airbnbs as brands.
That's, I think, the perfect way to sum up this portion of the conversation.
Yeah.
I was going to go into this whole analogy about like Disney hotels and like how the cheap ones like your crash pads and the nice
Oh, yeah.
ones are. But like that was perfect. I love it.
Great.
That's
Great. Now
amazing.
everyone's going to go Google the sex room Airbnb and their search traffic is going to skyrocket.
I
It's gonna be
really hope
great.
that everybody does because that's so good. Okay. So, fun question here. What is, and I'm going to share mine too. What is your craziest Airbnb experience?
Oh, okay. Gosh, let me think about it. What's my best one? Like, should I share a bad one? Because I'm
I
like,
mean,
of course,
it
that
can
one
be
comes to
bad. It can
mind.
be bad. It can just
Okay.
be flat out weird. Like, lay it on us.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was pretty. We had to book a last minute Airbnb by Crater Lake. And it was like in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Crater Lake is kind of in the middle of nowhere, and there were no expectations set. It just had, it like looked like it kind of had neighbors, but then you're just driving and driving, and you're like, I'm gonna be killed. Like serial, like this is a serial killer. Like this is the end. Like it just felt so long to get there. It was like a rough driveway. I mean, there was nothing like comfortable or inviting, and then it was ended up being like a trailer home, and
Oh my
no
God.
shade to that. I mean, I was raised
But
in a
it
trailer
wasn't
home. I'm
marketed as
very
such.
familiar with them. Not, no, like it was not marketed as such. And I was like, maybe I should have known from the front picture, but it was so kind of, you couldn't tell. And then the second big turnoff for me was like they had an animal in there and it had peed on the floor.
Oh
And like I
no.
could tell that they had tried to clean it up, but I could smell it. And then I could smell like pee on like a blanket. Like I went to sit in a chair and put a blanket on my lap and I could smell like dog pee on it. And I was like, either they didn't clean the place at all between the last guest or they just completely missed this. I don't know. And so it was just kind of like one of those things where it's stacked of like, it wasn't fully represented, not a great location, not clean, and nothing inside was great. Like it literally looked like someone like left abandoned their trailer home and threw it up on Airbnb. And
Oh.
basically it's the opposite of everything you should ever do with an Airbnb.
Did you get your money
So
back?
that I did not. It was just a quick stay and I was like, whatever. But that said, I've had incredible stays. My Joshua Tree Airbnb, stunning.
I can't even
Every
imagine.
piece was stunning. And it was actually directly across from the very famous Airbnb that is the spaceship. It's a spaceship Airbnb in Joshua Tree, very well known.
Mhm.
There's like only a few of those specific structures in the world.
Oh,
Anyways, that's a whole
sick.
other tangent. Anyways, so I mean, we got to like stare at it and watch people have their one night stay in this little alien thing. But the Airbnb across the street is so much nicer because you have like actual bathrooms and showers.
Yeah.
But it was stunning. They had a cedar like hot tub and it was all natural and everything about it was just a fully different experience that I loved.
Ah, okay, I love it.
Okay,
All right,
let me hear
I'm gonna
yours.
share mine. Mine, I just was young and dumb and didn't know any better. So I was going to Reykjavik with a friend of mine. He was like, "Do you want to go
Okay,
to Iceland?" I was like, "Sure." What, I don't know. When am I going to
absolutely.
go to Iceland again? Um, Stay tuned, Right Hand Glam fam. 2024, we're going to Iceland. Surprise if you watch this or listen to this. But so I was like, "You need to handle everything. Like, just tell me where I have to pay you." So he books this Airbnb in Reykjavik, and it is extremely hard to get to. It is up like massive hills. We're dragging our luggage, and we get there, and it's like, Iceland's very safe, but it's just like a weird part of town. It's like very like industrial and quiet, and
Mm.
it's above a like tool shop, like a hardware store, and it's on the top floor. So we are dragging our luggage up 3 flights of stairs, and very ironically, the guy's name that owned it was Thor. And so we knock on the door, and this giant man answers the door, huge beard, and we're like, "Hey, are you Thor?" And in an Australian accent, he goes, "No, they're downstairs." And I was like, "Okay." So we drag all of our shit back downstairs and we go into the hardware store, and the wife is there and she's like, "Oh, yes, like absolutely, like welcome, let's get you in." So we think we're going to a different floor. No, we are taken back to the third floor where the Australian man is. And turns out the Airbnb was rented as 2 separate rooms, and we did not know this. So it
Oh
was my
no.
friend and I in one room, and in the other room were 3 guys, 2 from Australia and 1 from New Zealand, who were doing their like classic year-long trip that Australians tend to do. And there was one bathroom, and I was like
Oh God.
19 or 20, and these giant Australian men are just walking around in these teeny tiny towels, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, we would get home and they'd be like, "Yo, you want a beer?" And we're like, "We're not legal, but like sure." It was just, and I went back and I looked at the pictures after. I was like, did we miss something? Like, does this say somewhere that this was another room? No, like it fully looked like we had this whole place. Nope, three men, three large grown men.
Oh my God. That's so
Um,
wild. It wasn't even marked as like private room or something.
nope.
That is, yeah.
Nope.
They were
So
double
fact check your
dipping.
shit. I mean, it was great. It was fun. Like we all still follow each other on Instagram years
That's
later.
amazing.
And we ended up moving to another Airbnb in town, which when you want to talk about perks, this one came with a car. And if you're gonna do Iceland, get a car.
Wow.
Get a car. So, it all was fine and dandy. It was just a wild experience. I'm sure Chloe would have some wacky ass story too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Um, her Airbnb this weekend is going to be the Orlando airport because she is a stubborn bitch and she is flying from Austin to Orlando, sleeping in the Orlando airport, and then is in the first flight out to Philly on Saturday morning.
Oh my God.
What a woman.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
So to wrap this up, I would love to know first your advice to Airbnb owners.
Oh yeah. So I think my first advice is that you have to start with the name and get your name right. And I have a whole blog series on like naming your Airbnb, building a luxury Airbnb. So you can start there. You can just go to bethanyworks.com and then go over to my resources. And there's a whole Airbnb launch series that's super helpful, but you have to get the name right because that's going to set the tone and the vibe for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say after that, you get to decide if you want this to be a memorable experience, something people are talking about. If you want to build a community around it and you want to build something that has like this own living, breathing organism, which Airbnbs can do, then invest in your brand at minimum with someone who is not just a graphic designer and not just something off of Canva, but who is a brand strategist and can bring you the language, the messaging, the visuals, help see the full vision, actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can think about a website later on. You don't have to opt for that right away, but I think that that's a really important consideration at the beginning. And at the very least, like regardless of if you're going to build this into a branded Airbnb or not, consider what happens to the guests the second they step foot on your property, and what that actually looks like.
I love it. And my last question for you is, what would your advice be to the next generation of moneymakers, which we are a part of?
Yeah, I think, which I have to tell myself this, so this is as much for me as it is for you, but I think just staying flexible. I was a teacher before, and I think there's something so powerful about being a lifelong learner. And I think that that's a trait of a lot of entrepreneurs, but it's super easy once we found something that works and makes money to kind of fall into a flow with it, which is great. But at some point, things kind of shift and change, and we have to keep that like, let's learn something new, let's pivot, let's think about this in a new way. And I honestly think you're like such a queen of pivoting, and I think that comes because you're in the social media industry, so you're like, it's like literally a daily pivot.
You got
yeah. And I love that. And I love that attitude. And I think that's like, if you can channel that energy and make that, the forefront, then it's going to take you really far.
Juicy. I love it. And it is really so true. I mean, in this day and age, if you don't pivot, you're going to feel stuck. You're going to feel sad like you did in whatever you were doing before, and it's going to drain the life out of you. But also very literally, the platforms that we use are changing all the time. Exactly. So you got to be willing to be flexible, which a lot of us, I know a lot of people that I've talked to that are teachers, that flexibility is one of the biggest things that they said was why they left their jobs. So I think that's such great advice. All right, Bethany, tell us where we can find you. How can we connect with you? How can we work with you? Give us all the tea.
Yes. So I am an Instagram person. That's where I will be. Bethany Works Design is my handle. You can find me on other platforms, but really, if you want to talk to me, you need to DM me there. And a voice note is fantastic. You can also find me at bethanyworks.com. That's my agency website. There's lots of resources, like I said, in my blog for Airbnb owners, or if you're thinking about it. And I also have a podcast. So you can find me at unbreakablebrands.com. That's my podcast.
Hell yeah, podcast queen over here.
Yeah.
You've a fancy mic and everything. One of these days, mine is literally plugged into my computer. I just need to use it. All right. Well, thank you for an amazing conversation. This was so in depth. I think this is such a great insight, not just for people who already own Airbnbs, but for moneymakers who might want to make this their next move. So thank you so much for an amazing conversation. Moneymakers, we will see you on Wednesday for our live weekly crash over on Instagram. Make sure to follow us at Yes I Make Money if you are not already. And of course, at Right Hand Glam.